Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Famiboards Discussion Club, a podcast for and by the Famiboards community. Today, we're going to be catching up on some summer news, including new updates from The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, Emio the Smiling Man, and some other items. If you'd like to join the discussion as well, please be sure to visit this podcast companion thread on Famiboards.com. I'm WestEgg, and I'm once again joined by Irene.
Hello.
And VolcanicDynamo.
Hey, is it just me or is there something different around here? Nah, I think it's just me. Welcome to the podcast!
Alright, so let's go ahead and just kind of start up with a catch-up of what we've all been playing lately. So if either of you want to go ahead and take the wheel on that?
I can say something that I've been doing lately that has been kind of fun.
Sure.
So I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom as usual, but especially during what I can call like anniversary season, because it's been a year since it came. It was a year since it came out, like 2 months ago. But since last summer was the Tears of the Kingdom summer, I'm like celebrating the Tears of the Kingdom summer. So what I've done is I've done a straight to Ganondorf playthrough.
Okay.
And it has been quite the experience because first of all, people speedrun like Breath of the Wild straight to Ganondorf in like half an hour. This took 10 hours because there's so much prep work you need to be doing, like immediately after the paraglider, and you need to go see Ganondorf. There's so much, like I had a shopping list, like, oh, get this, because the bosses you have to defeat all. Oh, sorry, I should mention before I started talking. Spoiler alert for the ending of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Or like the final stretch of it. But here's the thing: if you're going to straight to Ganondorf, you have to defeat all 6 bosses in a row. So it's the army. And then there's all 6, like all 4 temple bosses. Then there's the Construct Factory boss and the Phantom Ganon boss from Hyrule Castle. And then Ganondorf. That took an hour and 15 minutes.
And on 3 hearts.
Yeah, and 4 hearts. Because
4 hearts.
Yeah, and I thought that doing the shopping list, you need like specific stuff for the bosses. You need gemstones for Queen Gibdo. You need water stuff for the Water Temple boss, and so on. But that was actually kind of fun. I just ran around for a few hours and explored and stumbled across, like, here's some fairies, here's some arrows. You sort of like naturally explore, just as you do when you play Tears of the Kingdom normally. And then you like gather enough resources. So I went down there. I think 7.5 hours into the playthrough was when I was ready enough to tackle the endgame gauntlet. And let me tell you that endgame gauntlet, those 1 hour and 15 minutes was brutal. Like absolutely, like holy. It wasn't like difficult, because if you take a From Software game, it's difficult because you don't really know what to do. You need to learn the patterns and you defeat repeatedly. Here, you know what to do because the bosses have kind of easy patterns to figure out. The problem is doing it, and the problem is enduring for all of that time. Because I went in there with like 3 fairies, right? And when you have 4 hearts, you're meeting those bosses, they will one-shot you. And so that means that you have to put up with, and during my final attempt, like I lost 3 fairies on the army phase alone. So it's really, really, really stressful to be like an inch away from death and just powering through that endgame 6 boss gauntlet with like only 4 hearts and knowing that you're 1 shot away from that. It's unhinged. It's the most brutal thing I've ever experienced in a Zelda game before. It's like, because in Breath of the Wild it's like, oh, it's the Blight Ganons and then it's Ganon and you can do it because they're all kind of the same. It's pretty short. But this was it was fun, but it was absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially since the tutorial island is a bit longer than the Great Plateau, I think.
Yeah,
And then, like you said, you have the paraglider quest and whatnot too. So you have a lot of prerequisites before you can probably even really do your material gathering.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, did you like record it or anything, or did you just kind of like go for it? And
yeah, I
I
just
don't know.
went.
I'm just curious.
No, I just went for it. I was like,
Okay.
oh, here we go. And I went for it. I made the shopping list, and I needed at least like 120 arrows. So I needed to grind a lot of rupees and find gemstones and sell gemstones, and just do the beetle grind, because a beetle refills arrows for every stable after every blood moon. So just to travel from stable to stable to stable and buy all of those beetle arrows.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole ordeal. All right. Volcanic, what you been playing?
Well, I've been very busy due to events, but I had to get the TTYD remake in here and there over the series of about 2 months. I mean, it's Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It's exactly what you'd expect in probably the best possible way. Fantastic remake, fantastic way to keep it basically the same while nipping a few of those backtracking issues, just in a few places, updating the music and the presentation to be more in line with the modern trilogy, especially the other two HD Paper Marios, while still keeping TTYD's art style. I guess pop-up book, versus arts and crafts. That was a phenomenal time. I've also been playing a Pokemon ROM hack, Pokemon Emerald Rogue. This year, they released a 2.0 update for it, and while I'm not necessarily a big roguelite person, I've put like 100 hours into this alone. It's one of the best Pokemon hacks I've played, because there's just so much to it in terms of being able to really make each run feel like however you want it to make. Set the difficulty, set the Pokemon from which region or which generation you want to appear. There's so much customization for characters, for the hub, for all of that, and there's multiplayer. I haven't played it, but this is multiplayer. Absolutely bonkers hack. But now that I'm done with that, and I'm done with TTYD, I've also been playing. I haven't finished it, but I've been playing a bit of Kitsune Tales, which can loosely be described as Japanese mythology sapphic Super Mario Bros. 3, and that's been fun so far. But I'm only I'm about 4 worlds in. So I still have a ways to go, but it's been fun. It's been fun. What, me liking a Mario like? Big shock, I know.
Plot twist.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it just came out on August 1st, and right now it's only on Steam and itch, but in Q1 2025 it's going to be coming to consoles, so look out for it then if you don't want to pick it up on Steam or itch, but nope, so far I think it's been a pretty good time.
I was wondering when you said that the Pokemon ROM hack is online. Is it like, how does that work?
So, I haven't tried this because I've been playing it exclusively on an emulation handheld. But if you play it if you play it on PC, you play it on the MGBA emulator, and you download a specific helper program, what you can do is you can go online with other people playing on MGBA, and you could basically both be in a run together. You can both progress through the same areas or through different areas and sort of have that experience. It seems really cool. I want to try it. I have not gotten a chance to, but it sounds really fun. And one of these days I gotta actually set it up on the PC and try it. Well, I guess I would have to bring my save file over from my handheld to my computer, so One day I'll try it if I get anyone else to play. If I get anyone else to play this game with me, we'll try it then.
That's really cool.
Yeah. As far as what I've been up to, I'm currently replaying Xenoblade 3. I'm getting somewhat close to the end of it. It's interesting because I had originally reached like the ending of the game essentially, and then I kind of like lost interest and never actually finished it. So this time I'm rectifying that. I'm actually this isn't me like plugging it, but I'm actually streaming it with a friend because I had played the first two Xenoblade games and like he'd watched it, and this is just kind of like a way for me to like hang out with a high school or a college buddy.
Oh, that's really
but
nice.
that yeah, it's kind of just been a fun thing to do. But aside from that, I've been trying to get back into Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. I don't know if either of you have played or heard of that. You're like a
I've been meaning to play that.
I've heard of it, yeah.
You're the daughter of a harvest goddess and war god, and basically like you're kind of this like bratty young girl goddess, and you get banished from the heavens, and like you have to atone on an island by growing rice. And so there's a loop of growing rice, which strengthens your powers as a harvest goddess, which gives you better like platforming strength and abilities and stuff, and and that allows you to collect better materials to like make your rice farm better. And so it might sound something like a Stardew or something, but it's a little more focused on the intricacies of like the rice harvesting itself. Like you have to like control the water level at the different stages in your paddy, and then you have to like control the fertilizer, and then when it comes out you have to like do the threshing and the polishing and like a bunch of other stuff. It's really involved.
It sounds like a similar gameplay loop to Harvestella, almost, which makes me interested in playing it because I love Harvestella and I really appreciate that approach to loop. Like, I don't know if it's like dungeon crawling in Sakuna or if it's more like standard action platforming.
It's kind of dungeon crawling. It's very, it's like side-scrolling, kind of like Zelda 2-ish, but...
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
It's nice that you have been playing Xenoblade 3 too. I just want to say that I've been meaning to replay it too, but recently I've seen like a bit of a backlash to Xenoblade 3 where there's been a lot of criticism about the story and like the villains and the ending, that was this sword that didn't have a fulfilling story narrative justification. I've seen a lot of criticisms come up lately about Xenoblade 3, but while I do certainly agree with some of it to a certain extent, I'm willing to let everything pass, because when I think of Xenoblade 3, I think about the fact that I consider Chapter 5 in Xenoblade 3 to be like peak storytelling.
Yeah, and that's very fair. I could honestly fill an entire podcast about talking about Xenoblade. So what I'm gonna say as far as like some of the discourse, Xenoblade 3 is an excellent game. Mm-hmm. I would still say I prefer 2 because 2 is just one of my favorite games in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are obviously criticisms with the games, but the things they do well, they do really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew.
And then I should mention, this probably a lot of people wouldn't care about as much, but I've also been playing a lot of EA Sports College Football 25. Yeah.
Sports.
Just say I waited 11 years for this because a lot of like legal issues with like student athlete licensing and all of like a bunch of that had to be sorted out. But it's the game that got me to actually buy a current gen console when I probably otherwise would not have. It's been worth it. I've really been enjoying it. I've put a ton of time into it. It's just fun playing college football again.
Nice that they're finally catering to that market again, and hope those college kids get paid. Let's go.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get into some of the news updates over the summer.
Yeah, sure.
Starting off, we received a new trailer for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. It was the Traversing Hyrule trailer, and they just kind of showed a bit more about the game than we had gotten at the Direct a while back. So kind of one of the first things, we have some new regions shown. Initially, we were kind of thinking that it was going to be a kind of blown up or a little bit more varied version of the Link to the Past map, but a lot of these are completely new. So we've got like the Gerudo Desert, the Jabul Waters, the Elden Volcano, and the Faron Wetlands. And it was just kind of cool seeing all of that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see. It's not really a surprise, but it really is fascinating to see top-down Zelda being able to pull more from locations and other things that are more associated with the 3D Zeldas. Like, I know we technically got a sort of Gerudo Desert-esque area in Four Swords Adventure, but, straight up doing Elden Volcano and having that really be inspired by the sort of the Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time theming of, oh, we're going to put Kakariko here, and then you're going to scale the mountain. Faron Wetlands being very much inspired by the tropical locales of the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom interpretations of Faron. The aforementioned Gerudo Desert, very much pulling from Breath of the Wild and Ocarina, and even Jabul Waters, even though that is sort of, obviously you hear Jabul, I think of, oh, like Jabu Jabu, not an original thought, I took that from Zeltic, sorry. But seeing that, but also, hey, the split between River and Sea Zora from the Oracle games. So it's
cute.
Yeah, very cute. So it's like right now it's a really good mix of feeling like, oh, we're pulling more from the later games lineage while still feeling very eclectic and very classic. And I think that's a really great way to make like a new top-down Hyrule. And I think just so far it's getting me really excited.
Yeah, and it's cool as far as the inhabitants of the lands they've been showing. Obviously, you have the Gerudo and the Gerudo Desert, and they have been in 2D games, but not. We haven't seen like Gerudo Town like we have in Breath of the Wild in that way before. As well as like we have the both the river and the Sea Zora, which I've seen some people saying that's the first time they've been in the same game, but I don't think that's true. Irene, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that. I thought they were like both in the Oracle games.
I haven't played the Oracle games in an embarrassing amount of time, so I don't know really.
No, yeah, that actually is true. They even use the exact same terminology from the Oracle games here in Echoes of Wisdom.
Uh-huh.
Okay, okay, so that did kind of tickle a thing. Obviously, Elden Volcano has the Gorons, and then it's kind of cool. They brought back the Deku Scrubs as like an actual like civilized society, not just like random monsters. And they kind of have their own thing going on in Faron Wetlands, which is cool to see. And they seem to be like more the Majora's Mask style business scrubs.
Yeah, really, really cute. That they added the fact that they're obsessed with candy, which seems so weird, but also strangely like fitting, but also not fitting, but still fitting. I'm really into it, and I'm really glad to see the Deku Scrubs being NPCs again. It's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we also saw some like kind of just UI stuff. So there's the Breath of the Wild style adventure log. So like side quests are going to be part of a thing. Nor like in past 2Ds they weren't really outlined in that way. It seems like we've got like the waypoints back from like Link's Awakening. But yeah, it seems like they're kind of pulling in a lot of stuff to for this game, which I'm excited about. Speaking of horseback riding for the first time in a 2D title.
Yes, so cute.
Oh, those little horses, they're my new friends. They're all of them are my new friends. I want to have like 50 of them, and I want to take care of them. But on a serious note, no, it's really I really like, and this goes into stuff we'll talk about later with the mechanics, but also with how they're doing fast travel, how they're doing the adventure log. It's really interesting to see them pull so much from the modern open air Zelda and what looks to be a more traditional 2D in the sense that the world seems more compact. It seems like a smaller scale, but still being able to pull these ideas from that bigger game and those concepts into this sort of slightly different format. It's interesting to see that that merger of the concepts, and I think it's gonna make this one really special and not just feel like, it's a Link to the Past or Link's Awakening, but you're playing this with Zelda and you're summoning dudes, So I like how we're getting that merger of the identities. It's like how we see more influence of 3D Mario in something like, for example, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, in terms of its
Yeah.
presentation, in terms of how the Wonder Seed mechanic is kind of like the moons. And no, it's nice to see the sort of cross pollination, see where we can influence each other in terms of that to make even better games.
Yeah, it went also like the opposite direction, I felt, when Breath of the Wild released, because I felt like Breath of the Wild took a lot from A Link Between Worlds, or that A Link Between Worlds felt like a little bit of dipping toes into waters that they were treading more deeply in Breath of the Wild. I'm talking about, so it was like the first completely open 2D Zelda where you could solve dungeons in any order. You had the renting mechanics, so you could get like any item at any time. I think that was really cool. How I was like, oh, 2D Zelda is like leaning more into freeform exploration, and how that really bloomed up into Breath of the Wild. That was really cool, and now it feels like, as you said, the opposite is happening. That 3D Zelda is bleeding into 2D Zelda, and I know it has caused some concerns and some head scratching. I will probably get into that later, but I personally, it makes sense that I personally am really on board with it, for as someone who holds like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as the two greatest games ever made. So seeing more of those games in other games is always thrilling to me. But also, on a more objective note, feel like it is such a good fit for the type of game that they're wanting to make, to really lean into a more freeform approach and be like, hey, Zelda is not explicitly about lock and key dungeons or like linear approaches. It is about the feeling of going on an adventure. You can make a game that feels like going on an adventure with the linear structure, don't get me wrong, but they're really focusing on the core aspect of Zelda games is supposed to feel like going on an adventure, and they're so good at making that feeling with these kind of ideas and mechanics. And I think that's going to show itself so well in Echoes of Wisdom, that this is going to be a really, really, really good game, and that has that adventurous spirit that comes from leaning into all of these like ideas that were in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, and also in a way that doesn't just feel like, oh, we're just gonna do Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom again, but in a top-down perspective, being able to like make a completely new twist on it with the Echoes mechanic, as well as the other new mechanic that was revealed in this trailer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it really feels that, okay, we're gonna be doing this, but we're gonna be taking these influences from 2D Zelda. We're gonna bring back a lot of the enemies and mechanics and stuff like that. But we're not just gonna say, oh, this is Zelda. We're going to throw her in and she's going to be playing like Link Breath of the Wild. No, we're going to give her her own thing. We're going to be exploring a lot of these same concepts from this new angle, in this new perspective. And it's going to make a game that's really going to stand out on its own while still taking those influences. And I think both as someone looking at the game design and someone who's going to be playing this when it comes out, that's really exciting to me. I never would have come up with something like this, and yet they constantly do this. I'm always so impressed with what they're doing here.
Absolutely, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
They are obviously bringing back a lot. Something new, which they put a lot of emphasis on in the trailer, was the smoothie shops.
Yes!
And
Woo!
it seems like that's essentially going to be potions.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's a little more involved, like there may be like ingredients gathering and different effects and things like that, so that's actually pretty cool.
You have a modern Nintendo game, you gotta have your crafting mechanics. Animal Crossing, you got your crafting mechanics. Legends Arceus, you got your crafting mechanics. Echoes of Wisdom, you got your crafting mechanics. Jokes aside though, I do think it'll be at least an interesting system, in the fact that it doesn't feel like it's gonna be like thrusted and forced upon you, but you get to play around and experiment with it, and then make your own make your own results to get the potions you want. So I think it'll be a good balance. Also, it's just a fun. It's smoothies. That's just a fun way to approach that concept.
Yeah. I can't wait to see people meme on it. It's gonna be hilarious.
The thing that I go to when I see like the smoothies and stuff, that implies to me that bottles might be more important, so you can have like a variety of effects. So maybe we'll see more of those in this game.
Yeah, that's really cool. People talk sometimes about like, oh, traditional Zelda. I miss traditional Zelda. Where is Heart Pieces? Where is that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't miss traditional 3D Zelda, but I miss bottles. Bottles used to be an amazing part of classic Zelda. Gathering, I don't know, out of all the things you can gather in video games, but something about empty bottles in Zelda games and the places you find them in like weird and unexpected places. You find it in like a dumpster in Twilight Princess. It's hilarious. And if bottles play a bigger role in the whole smoothies thing, I will be over the moon about it. Yes.
Because, like, if you go back to older Zeldas, yeah, you're right that getting bottles felt very significant, which is funny because it's, like, the most mundane thing.
Yeah.
But, like, a bottle was essentially like, an extra life, or...
Yeah.
Like, the utility was off the charts compared to most actual items you get in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something fun about the mundanity, though. Like, oh, you get this bottle, and now you get to reflect Ganon's projectiles. I mean, drink a potion. But no, I kind of agree with both of you. I feel like it was such, and I've talked with this with my partner a lot, and we've come to the conclusion that it's one of the things that we really like about this mechanic of the system with the potions is that it can't be by having it your inventory based on how many potions you can carry rather than just being able to stack a bunch. It always encouraged you to use them. Oh, you use them and then you just refill them, you know, rather than getting 99 things and saving them for the final boss fight, you know. So I think pairing that with the smoothie mechanic, I think could add some excitement. Like, oh yeah, I got to carry around another smoothie. I got to make another concoction and bring it with me. But yeah, I wonder if they will do that and bring that back. I mean, I guess the devs wanted to bring back heart pieces so much that they put it on the cover. So who knows with bottles?
Who knows with bottles?
Yeah. So another thing kind of returning from Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are like unique outfits. So that was kind of cool to see come back.
Girl,
so they did demo Zelda in like a few different outfits, which is cool to see.
Girl looks so cute. She looks so cute. I'm so excited that they're just continuing with this. Oh, we're gonna keep making these games, and the main character, we're just gonna let them have a bunch of outfits. Mario does it. Zelda does it. Animal Crossing, that's kind of the point. And now, 2D Zelda's doing it. Mm-hmm. Perfect time to be messing with fashion, too, if you catch my drift.
And I am really ready to... You know this thing that is like... when your custom character appears in a cutscene and then there's something like really ridiculous. Someone is made that with Breath of the Wild, and like Link had like the Ravio hat, and he had like he had the Ravio hat, and he had the barbarian armor, and then he had like the Rito snow boots, and it looks absolutely ridiculous, and I can't wait to see what kind of like weird stuff we can dress Zelda in. And I hope there's like amiibo costumes. I know people are like, oh, amiibo as a concept has a lot of detractors. I'm aware of that, but amiibo costumes is gonna be really cool to see.
Oh man, now you're making me really want that. I want to see it. I want to be able to I want to scan in all of the Zelda amiibo I have and get silly little hats. I want to see Zelda dressed up as Link. I want to see Zelda dressed up as Breath of the Wild Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom Zelda. And now, if we don't get this, I'm going to be a little sad.
Yeah, it would be cool because it's like something they did more towards the start with like Mario Kart and Mario Maker and stuff, the outfits and whatnot. Yeah, I'd love to see that. And so later in the trailer, they showed what is probably like kind of the point of it, the big new mechanic, which is binding and reverse bond. And these immediately feel like Sheikah Slate or Zonai abilities from the open air games. But basically, binding lets you bind an object to you to mimic your movements, and reverse bond does the opposite, where you bind yourself to an object and you mimic its movements. And there is a ton of potential in that. That is really, really cool.
Yeah. Big Ultra Hand vibes for sure. But I do appreciate that with Ultra Hand, obviously you're in a 3D space. It can get pretty complex with how much you can do. Here, it's top down, so we're keeping it simple. You move around or you let it move you. But it's one of those things where it's so simple that it's still kind of ingenious, right? Even the trailer showed a lot of fun potential for both bind and reverse bond, whether it's you're traveling along platforms or climbing up, letting a spider let you climb up the walls by just traveling with it, or using bind to make a hole with like little gopher looking thing, take the gopher out, get a moblin, and throw it into the hole. Like that's the small kind of stuff that shows that this really has a lot of fun potential, and I think it really works within like the sort of sandboxy thing that they're going for, where make what you want, move it how you want, do it, while also feeling like still like well thought out and like not too overwhelming. Like I think like the combination of these two mechanics alone is just going to be really exciting, and I'm really I know I'm really just saying that. I'm really excited, but I've always really liked top-down Zelda, and I've also liked the Breath of the Wild, but I've also really liked the Breath of the Wild style and Tears of the Kingdom style exploration mechanics. So seeing those two coming together while also still being its own thing, this is a high chance of being my game of the year. Really, really high chance.
That's cool.
I expect it to be probably currently it's college football, but I assume this game will probably take the crown once it comes out.
Yeah. I have concerns about the two new abilities actually, and that is that bring back traditional Zelda a little bit more into the conversation. It lives a lot around limitations, right? You have the lock and key approach and the item gating and stuff like that can be really cool. I remember playing Link's Awakening, and it is something cool in seeing a boulder you can't lift, seeing a gap you can't jump across, and wonder what you can do to get that heart piece on the other side of the gap. And I don't know, bind the reverse bond together with the echo ability make Zelda seem very, very overpowered in a way. It's like something is approaching you as an enemy. It's like, you can bind it, you can reverse bond it into a hole, or you can bind it and then put it in a hole, and you can summon echoes, you can make an echo out of it. Like, it seems to be a lot of stuff you can do, so much stuff you can do, yet that you almost get a little bit overpowered, where I actually felt that a little bit in Tears of the Kingdom, that once you got going and you have hoarded Zonai devices, you were freaking unstoppable, which was fun, but I think, since this is a smaller scale game that is probably structured differently, I do have this kind of concern that is this going to be not too free? That's not what I'm meaning, but too overpowering, or if it's gonna have because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had freedom, but they had challenges that could like push back against the freedom, and I'm not quite getting that feeling with Echoes of Wisdom, really.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's really going to depend on how much they want to put limitations, or rather, how much they want to let the player grow. I could see a scenario where theoretically, for example, maybe over the course of the game, you're growing how many echoes you are allowed to hold. Maybe you can only hold a certain amount of echoes at first, but as you make progress and as you could question, you gain oh, you can hold one more echo, you can hold one more, and it's really by like the end of the game where you can have like every single echo, or maybe like they could do stuff like, oh, how like you can't access like every single thing in your inventory in like certain what's its face shrines in a Breath or Tears, so you have some limitations. Okay, maybe for maybe there'll be challenges where, okay, you in this area you can only use these specific echoes or these specific things. So maybe they can sort of try to limit the challenge in that way, and maybe just leave the overworld exploration more open. I am curious to see like where they'll come to these results, or if they really are just like, look, Zelda's got a big brain. It's called Echoes of Wisdom. You figure it out if you're so dang smart.
Yeah. I do like that in the trailer, one of the things they showcased was Zelda just dropping Lizalfos off of a volcano. And I think it, like, I mean, mechanically that's one thing, but it's just becoming a playable character imparts a level of sociopathy, which is hilarious to me.
Poor Lizalfos. Just wait till the other Lizalfos here. They're gonna, they're trying to gang up on her, and then Zelda will just summon a Lizalfos to beat up the other Lizalfos. She'll be fine.
So we may have news about where you can actually put your abilities to the test, because at the very end of the trailer, they tease Zelda going into rifts.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, and we don't know what exactly that means yet. I think there's 3 things we could potentially infer. Either they're the game's equivalent of dungeons, of shrines, or like a dark world. That's my guess anyway.
I'm leaning more towards Dark World, or like it's not going to be a Dark World, but it's going to be like,
like the equivalent.
Yeah, like it's not going to be like the Depths or like the Twilight Realm. It's going to be more towards, because the Twilight Realm was like a separate realm with a challenge that then turned the area back to normal. I could see it being something in that direction. I think these are like the, let's call it shrine equivalents, where that's where the challenges and the progression is going to be contained inside. And I think that counters my own point a little bit that I made earlier, that this could be the places or the methods the game uses to put in the limitations that I didn't get the vibe of in the overworld. That's one thing I'm thinking about right now actually is there was purple enemies coming out from the rift, and those could be, perhaps those are enemies that can't be made into echoes, or that can't be fought with another echo, for example. That could be a limitation they could use to impose more challenge. But yeah, I think I definitely think the rifts are some kind of challenge containing alternate realm of sorts.
Yeah, I just decided to go on Zelda Wiki just because I'm curious. I think we have one screenshot of a location that takes place within a rift.
There was, yeah.
And yeah, this place looks funky. This place looks like it can feel really surreal. It can make us for some very unique movement challenges. So whether or not this is meant to be like more of the dungeon replacement, or if it's just meant to be like specific challenges, I think that I think we're in for a treat.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess for me, one thing before we move on from talking about Zelda, the opening of that trailer during the we're gonna do the Breath of the Wild style pan over Hyrule, they showed a cracked wall. They showed a little crack. I need to find me a bomb thing. I need to find me explosive so I can open that. You're tempting me already.
Mm-hmm.
That's
beautiful
a really
design.
cool.
Beautiful design.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And just one other detail I had kind of noted that's related to all this. I feel like in the initial trailer, Tri had like the 3 floating triangles, and in the new one, they had 4.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be a progression where like that might be like the dungeon item where you get to create more echoes as the game progresses or something like that.
Yeah, as an upgrade thing.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of how you upgrade like your Zonai battery, for example. So I can see this as a really easy sort of like upgrade mechanic.
Okay, so one thing I want to say though before we move on is that I've seen a lot of like dooming online about how this game is going to be like too big of a departure from classic Zelda, because classic Zelda obviously still has a lot of fans that does not vibe with Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, which is totally fair. I can totally understand that. I classic Zelda has a big place in my heart, right?
Yeah.
But I think people can sometimes have preconceived notions or take things out too much in advance that, oh, this game is going to be the definitive move away from classic Zelda because it's taking so much inspiration from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I don't agree. I think that people are jumping the gun on that one, and we don't really know how much of a departure from classic Zelda this is going to be. And when I say classic Zelda, I am referring to stuff like traditional dungeons, lock and key item progression, linear storytelling that is not bound to like memories and stuff. Those kinds of things. A Zelda game that reaps the benefit of not being freeform and not being like a go anywhere kind of game. I think Echoes of Wisdom is both a freeform game and a go anywhere kind of game, but that does not completely exclude the fact that we can get traditional dungeons, we can get a linear story, we can get several new interpretations of the lock and key item gating progression approach and philosophy. I personally choose to believe that and hold out for that, and I think that it might be a good idea to relax and pull back a little, because we don't know for sure yet how much this is going to be a departure from what is called classic Zelda, and I choose to believe, or choose to like hold my thoughts for a while, that classic Zelda is not dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm really, at this point, I'm really down to see the developers of these franchises try new things, Not that I don't miss a lot of the old conventions, I've probably played more 2D Zeldas and finished more 2D Zeldas than I've had 3D Zeldas. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of fondness, but if it means, we can get reinvigorated approaches, if we can get fresh ideas that end up being really fun, then I'm willing to see these developers try new things, mess with the formula, and see if we get good results. Well, fully knowing that, hey, if it doesn't end up working out fully, they'll try something new. Or if something does work out, okay, they'll bring it back, that kind of flexibility gets me really excited, and that's one of the things I can appreciate about Nintendo with how they tend to handle, like, their long-running franchises. So, really excited for Echoes. I do understand the concerns of not necessarily matching the older style, but I'm ready. September 26th can't come soon enough. Let's go.
Yep. All right, so the other big game that was kind of news this summer in Nintendo circles was Emio the Smiling Man, which is a new entry in the Famicom Detective Club series. So I thought it'd be cool to talk a little bit about that, especially since it kind of had an unconventional marketing campaign. Nintendo kind of, right? Mm-hmm. Nintendo kind of just dropped a 15-second teaser trailer of a man with a bag on his head, and it was creepy, and everyone's like, what is this? And it had the M rating on it, and they kind of just let it sit for like a week or so without any follow-up context or anything else.
I love that kind of marketing. Mm-hmm. I love that. It is so much. I don't know if the two of you remember much about Phantom Pain. No. And how that was handled.
I didn't follow it too much.
Tell us.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, a trailer called Phantom Pain dropped, and a guy called Joakim Mogren from a Swedish studio called Moby Dick Studios said that they were going to be behind it, and Joakim Mogren appeared in an interview with Jeff Keighley and he had bandages around his head, and he said like the worst accents ever. Like, I'm not going to tell you much about it, Jeff. And Jeff is like da da da. And then it turns out at GDC, Hideo Kojima walks up, and it's actually a trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5. And he like pulls off the bandage. It was like really, really weird. But it's these kind of like super unconventional marketing methods. They feel very un-Nintendo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like, and seeing Emio being pulled off like that. Oh, this is not a like direct announcement. This is not a like. It was a Tuesday drop or a social media drop. It was, but it's not like a overview trailer or. Just drop something completely random that makes people go haywire with guessing. Yeah, I was so happy to see it. I was like, this is so un-Nintendo, and it's nuts, and I love it.
And it's certainly got more eyes on the project than I think, say, a random drop in the Nintendo Direct would have, because if you say, oh, we're making another Famicom Detective Club, I think a lot of the hardcore fans would get really excited, but I think a lot of, like, casual folks who might not know, might not spend time. This got people to talk about Emio the Smiling Man for a little bit. It got people to be thinking about, ooh, what could this be? And now, we say, like, oh, hey, it's actually the third Famicom Detective Club. We're not going to talk about the Satellaview game.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, those same hardcore fans who are like, oh, we're making it's a new Famicom Detective Club. That's exciting. Get to be like extra excited because this special thing that they've been teasing is this project. And for everyone else, now it's like, oh, what is this? I'm a little bit more aware of this. Maybe I will check this out, or I'll go play the other two games. And speaking for myself, as someone who has not played either The Missing Heir or The Girl Who Stands Behind, the fact that this was revealed and they hyped this up the way it is makes me want to go back and play them before I try out Emio the Smiling Man. So I might not get to Emio at launch, but I actually am pretty intrigued with what they're doing here, and I'm excited to see them pull out another legacy franchise in a way that shows, where it's like, oh yeah, they really want to make this. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I also have not played The Missing Heir or The Girl Who Stands Behind. I do own it. Okay, so none of us have actually. Okay, so but that is kind of a testament to how effective this was, that we're talking about this the third game in a series that none of us have actually played.
We made the podcast after it. We haven't played it. We're fake Nintendo fans. I can't believe this. Just cancel the podcast right now. Cancel it. End it. Goodbye.
There's also the irony that this podcast name was inspired by Famicom Detective. But, yeah, I do have The Missing Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind. I think I will try and play through those either before it comes out or at least before I play it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to Emio in August, but it's going to be on my mind.
So, yeah, and like, after a week of them, like, dropping the teaser, they did, like, do the confirmation, yes, this is a Famicom Detective Club game. They had, like, an interview with Yoshio Sakamoto. And he described the game as revolving around an urban legend around a smiling man said to offer crying girls a paper bag with a smile drawn on it in exchange for their lives. And, like, from what I've gathered, it sounds like the actual plot is a serial killer that's emulating that urban legend. And that seems like an escalation from what I've gathered of the previous games, where I think they had serious storylines, but I don't think they had serial killer serious storylines.
Yeah, I don't want to speak with too much authority, as someone who's not played either of the previous two Famicom Detective Club games. But yeah, it seems like a really dark storyline to approach, but not one that necessarily feels edgy. It feels appropriate for, oh yeah, this is a mystery solving adventure game. So it doesn't feel out of line with what it is, but it is still interesting to see, like, an attempt at this sort of darker storyline, especially as Sakamoto gets into the idea that the story's ending might be kind of a bit of a divisive one. So being able to while we don't get a lot of big story-focused Nintendo stuff, at least from like EPD, I'm excited to see this in that direction, because it's just kind of it's fresh, it's interesting, it's new and exciting, even if it is really just going back to mining a really old well.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much more I have to say about the game. I'm excited to play it, and when it comes out, I'll look forward to seeing how people like it.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it too, and will perhaps play it. I'm getting vibes from Paranormal Sight. That's really cool, because Paranormal Sight was one of my favorite visual novels from 2023, and that game is also revolving around urban legends. And
Okay, that's
yeah,
that's been on my radar, so that actually intrigues me a bit more about Paranormal Sight. One a Let's Player I follow really enjoyed it, so I've kind of been wanting to play it.
it's a great game, an excellent mystery game, and the Smiling Man, if it does have the same vibes as Paranormal Sight, it might be something I really enjoy, because it invites. I thought that when I saw the trailer for the Smiling Man, it invites a sense of mystery. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to Detective Club or Detective Games, but this trailer was a really good trailer, because it invited this kind of like urban legend mystery. The Smiling Man, could this be a serial killer emulating like the urban legend? And that is something that gets you as a participant like hooked on the mystery. I think that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and we did have a community question about this game from Meatbag, who asks, "Give us your silliest prediction for who Emio actually is."
It's you.
It's you, the player.
It's you, the player, the one listening to this podcast right now. All of you. We are all the Smiling Man.
I mean, there is narrative room for that to be a twist ending, so if it is, like, we'll come back to that and give you a "you did it" moment.
I'm not trying to predict. I'm not trying to.
Okay.
I think it's the housekeeper.
Housekeeper. Okay. Good
Okay.
classic answer.
No, it's just a decade-old like mystery novel joke that it's always the housekeeper. In my country, we have something called dozen detectives, which means that it's really like mass-produced detective novels that they are all the same, and that joke kind of applies to it's always the housekeeper. So I would burst out laughing for 10 minutes straight if I finish Emio the Smiling Man and thought it was an excellent game, but the killer, the Smiling Man, is the housekeeper.
So my silly prediction, I guess you could say, the interview said the story's ending may be divisive for some, but that Sakamoto can't wait to hear what people have to say about it. The killer is going to be Yoshio Sakamoto himself.
That would be.
He's going to put himself in the game as the killer.
He would bring the Kojima vibe of the entire project, like full circle. It's gonna be great.
First other M and now this.
All right, so moving on to something a little less, or a little more sad, is that Game Informer has closed down.
Oh,
And this came out of absolutely nowhere. Apparently, the staff was caught flat-footed, like in the middle of working on the next episode. I know that the new Dragon Age was going to be like a future cover and had like future promotion tied to it, and they were caught off guard. It just seems like GameStop pulled the plug after 33 years without really telling anyone, and no one took it well.
I can imagine no one
shouldn't.
took it well.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
can imagine
It's
that.
it's an absolutely cruel, not a surprising move, but a very cruel move. You could, and it's very much a reflection of other things going on in the games industry, both in the games journalism industry, as well as, the general developer industry at large. It is so sad to see, so disrespectful to the writers and the editors who've been working there for years trying to make the magazine the best it can. I have a lot of feelings which I can't necessarily always put into words, so I'll leave the floor open. But I guess the two things that come to my mind: one, massive end of an era for print publications, that was probably the last major U.S. print publication because they were able to leverage it through GameStop. And so and two, thinking about just journalism and specifically games journalism, right? This is just yet another sign of how unsustainable this industry is because on the whims of corporate backing. We see similar things with how quickly the Washington Post's launcher was dropped, how quickly Vice's Waypoint was dropped, And even then, those are like smaller subsets of bigger news organizations. This is just, Game Informer's just gone. So
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about like the future of this sort of industry, and the thing that's coming to mind really is just the worker-owned, viewer-funded stuff like Aftermath, It's going to be a tricky situation for a lot of folks, and I really feel for everyone who's been affected by this.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, I get that print media is like not what it used to be, but at least afford the dignity of a like closed, announced like rollout of the finale. Like give people time to get their closure, to get their final stories out, like all of that. Don't just pull the plug like right away without telling anyone. Like, were either of you ever subscribed to Game Informer? I definitely was for like, probably for like 15 years or so, because I got it like in middle school and kept it going until like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was subscribed for a time because I used to have like the Power Rewards card through GameStop. So I would be getting Game Informer issues here and there. Though I will say, honestly, I don't think I really like took Game Informer as seriously as I did until these last few years with the online publications. For example, what immediately comes to mind just a few months ago was their cover story and their coverage general of Super Mario Brothers Wonder, right? So having to get that interview with the director and also with wow, I'm blanking. I am such a fake Mario fan right now. The producer of this
Yoshiaki Koizumi?
No, not Koizumi. Not Koizumi. The 2D.
Takahashi.
Yes, Tezuka. God. I'm gonna be. Miyamoto and Tezuka are looking down at me right now with disappointment. I am so sorry. Fathers. But yeah, no, the interview with the director of Wonder as well as with Tezuka, and just being able to like see their insights talking about coming back to 2D Mario after so long, focusing, wanting to make things fresh, wanting to like focus on the secrets and the exploration again, and hey, them doing, as journalism, doing genuinely great work, and now that's down the toilet because corporate doesn't want it anymore, and that's sad. That's pathetic.
Yeah, it sucks, and like just the way they did it with like what people are calling a chat GPT like goodbye message, which I don't know if that is the case or not, but it may as well have been. And then when like someone from the staff tried to like post a real one, they just nuked the Twitter account.
Oh, that was so painful.
And the website.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Like that's terrible for preservation. Like there were like reviews going back decades. There were like, I don't know if it's captured on Wayback or not, but still like that just sucks.
And how about the journalists who are trying to get jobs? Like, you can't just link to your work anymore because they took it down. So how are they supposed to land on their feet, show that stuff? It's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. The more I'm thinking about it, I was like, oh, I don't have that much to say, but now, the more we talk about it, the more angry I'm getting. It's, ugh.
Yeah, and what's so backwards thinking for me and so damning is that I personally consider like journalism, like real investigative good. I'm like not saying like that every single Game Informer article was a deep dive into the development of a troubled game, But in general, I consider journalism to be like one of the most important professions in society because
yes,
you need people who are able to hold like people accountable, able to like tell the stories worth telling to the public, etc., etc. And with all of the layoffs happening and all of the shit going down in the industry right now, I feel like the industry at large is at a point where the industry right now really needs journalists that can hold people accountable, that can dive deep into what is going on and can tell stories worth telling to the public. And now it feels like the corporate is like shutting down journalism, and the more they do it, the more this industry needs journalism. So it's just really backwards in a way for me.
Well said. Yeah.
Yep, you summed it up about as well as I could. It's just infuriating how the folks in power are skewing things away from that, trying to withhold information because it's not helping their bottom line.
Yeah.
And they don't want to like invest in it.
Yeah.
To kind of close out this episode, we do have a few more community questions that we can go through. So I'll kind of just go through those one by one.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
So from Suswave we have, will the next Nintendo console taste good on a cheeseborgle?
Cheeseborgle.
And that's in it.
What is that?
Cheeseborgle. It's cheeseborgle.
I think it's just I think it just is what it is. But I would say, given how Switch cartridges taste, I would lean towards no.
But what if a cheeseborgle is so delicious it nullifies the bad taste of the Switch cartridge?
I'll
let you be the guinea pig for that one, Irene.
All right, I'll take one for the team.
All right. We will report back whenever the next console comes back. All right, so from Chocolate Supra, we've got, what games are y'all looking forward to for the rest of the year, aside from the big Nintendo franchises that were shown off?
The two that immediately come to mind for me are Astrobot and the Marvel vs. Capcom collection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the two. Those are the two that come to my mind. Oh, okay. I gotta mention this for you, Choco. Yes, I'm looking forward to Sonic X Shadow Generations. No, I probably won't be getting it at launch because we know a month or two down the line it's gonna be like half off. So I'll get it then.
As far as what's coming out, aside from like Zelda, obviously, I'll also Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm planning to pick that up, and I really need to look into what's coming out on Game Pass later this year since I do have the new Xbox. So I guess that's my answer to be determined Xbox game.
Yeah, for me, I thought I had it really good with narrative heavy games coming out, because it's Afterlove EP, Life is Strange Double Exposure, and Lost Records Bloom and Rage, who are all like really narrative heavy games that I'm very, very hyped for. Unfortunately, Bloom and Rage got delayed into 2025 because it was supposed to release close to Life is Strange Double Exposure, so they kind of like shifted it out into 2025. But Life is Strange Double Exposure is Life is Strange is one of my favorite franchises. It has its up and downs, but I think Life is Strange 1 and 2 are absolutely incredible games. Mm-hmm. And Double Exposure being, the new Max adventure, and Max is like in my heart forever. That's gonna be really cool. I love the concept of it. I think that Life is Strange games are kind of like they're good games when they have great and well-written characters, of course, but it also helps that if they have an interesting power to it, and I think the power of double realities is going to be really, really cool. So definitely looking forward to Double Exposure. I think even if you're a Life is Strange fan or not, you can relate to the fact that it feels so good to just see a game in one of your favorite franchises come out and be like, yeah, this is still going strong and this is still putting out great games. And as for Afterlife EP, it's been a game, an indie game. I know it has shown up in an indie world here and there. Maybe people are not very familiar with it, but it's a really cute game, cute looking game about a person. They are trying to move on from the death of their girlfriend, and it has like music, rhythm-based, Guitar Hero-esque mini games, kind of like
interesting.
Night in the Woods, but instead of cats, they're like cool drawn humans, and it's based in Indonesia, the same place as the developers, and really looking forward to that. And also, rest in peace to the founder of the company who passed away, which caused the delay of the game.
This year's been so packed that I totally forgot that the Plucky Squire's supposed to be coming out. I'm looking forward to that too.
Right. Yeah, that's a good shout. So from Seventh Rest, we have so if y'all could choose one, preferably non-Nintendo, non-Sega retro system to get an app on NSO with a nice lineup of games for, what would it be and with what games? And we were encouraged, or rather discouraged, from Chocolate Super from saying the PlayStation 2.
Bold of you to assume that I wouldn't choose the PlayStation 1, Choco, but to be slightly more original than that, give me TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine or whatever you want to call it. Put the 3 Bonk games on there, and that's honestly all I need. TurboGrafx has a great lineup of games, but honestly, the other ones I've played are the Bonk ones, and honestly, that's been enough. I am a Bonk fan. Let me play Bonk. Let me play Bonk on my Nintendo Switch. Konami, please.
I'm going to. Can I? We have actually had this discussion on the forum in the general discussion threads.
Oh, okay.
About what is and isn't retro. But I want to stretch the definition a little bit and say that in a potential Switch to NSO that has like 3D systems that like GameCube and stuff, put the Xbox 360 on the NSO.
I mean, that's somewhat feasible with Xbox going more multi-plat.
Yeah, and if not for people who want to play rare games on NSO, they're always like, oh, we want to play rare games, we want to play GoldenEye, we want to play Perfect Dark, we want to play Donkey Kong. People are asking a lot about Donkey Kong 64 on NSO. Xbox 360, people are going to finally play Grabbed by the Ghoulies on a Switch console. Take that.
At last, society will know peace.
Yeah. New proposal. Rare replay Nintendo Switch Online. There you go. I did it. I solved it.
Yeah. I thought PC Engine was a good call out. My answer is probably going to be the SNK Neo Geo. Just for like the fighting games, Metal Slug, like a lot of those games, I think it would be fun. Although a lot of those are available on Switch already through like individual purchases. They were kind of like the early games that came on through the arcade classics, but I don't know, an SNK app would be cool.
Yeah.
We did have one question sneak in under the at the last minute from Shop Troll, which is, let's see, board games are also increasingly popular in Japan, and some of Nintendo's partners like Square Enix and Capcom are starting to dabble in developing them or licensing them out for original works. With Nintendo's long history as a toy maker and a playing card manufacturer, do you think we'll see original board games designed and published by Nintendo? What IPs do you think would be given the board game treatment, and how do you think they might do? Ooh. I have an idea how to answer that, but I need to develop the thought. So if anyone has anything,
this is a really interesting question. Ooh, excuse me. This is a really interesting question, and I'm not sure if Nintendo will jump in right away. But hey, they do have a history, as a card manufacturer and a toy manufacturer. So I could hypothetically see them one day trying something different, just another way to sort of extend their IP, right? In terms of what IPs I would like to see given the board game treatment, I mean, I'd love to see Mario, even though they've licensed Mario out for, here's your Monopoly, here's all that kind of stuff. It would be interesting to see them try to, like, translate the vibe of Mario into a board game, and I don't just mean like making Mario Party into a board game. That's a fun idea in and of itself, and sure, you could do that, but I was thinking more like, how do you translate the adventure of a Mario game into a proper board game that's approachable while still being more than just roll the dice to proceed? Because I think of like the 1980s Super Mario Brothers board game, which is pretty much just roll the dice, and at the end point you just get to the point where it's whichever player does the right dice roll ends up winning the game, and that's kind of not great. but it'd be interesting to see the ideas of, movement in a 2D space, using power-ups, dealing with enemies, translated more into that. Or even maybe a 3D Mario game where it's like, the board is like, here's a location. Like, here's New Donk City. You have to explore and you have to get a certain amount of power moons in order to, like, finish the game before the other players or something like that. I'm sure a more clever game designer could take those ideas and translate them into something better. Give me a multiplayer Splatoon board game too. Whether that's you find some way to make table turf battle into a real thing like the card game, or just some ways of like a map control style board game. Give me that. I think that'd be good.
For me, something that writes itself or births itself from this question is, of course, Animal Crossing Monopoly, where everyone gets to play as Tom Nook and be all greedy about lands and houses and buy houses and buy land and being
that
sent
has to exist, like,
and being imagine like Animal Crossing prison has to become a thing now.
I guess
there is an Animal Crossing Monopoly. I had to look it up.
Wait, there is?
Yeah,
Yes.
You're not playing as Tom Nook, but it's based on New Horizons.
What?
Because I was like, I knew there was a Mario Monopoly and a Zelda Monopoly, and I was like, there has to be an Animal Crossing Monopoly.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. No, I feel stupid because I actually knew about the.
Oh no, no worries.
I knew about the existence of Zelda Monopoly. It's just like Animal Crossing Monopoly was just like the very first idea that came up in my head when I heard the question. If I can say a quick second thing, it would be like it writes itself, but a Fire Emblem strategy board game.
Ooh, like Risk.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's a
Risk.
good idea.
Yeah, I could get down with that. As far as do I think Nintendo would do it, I'm gonna say I don't think they would anytime soon, at least. I think they would be more likely to license out to a partner and then like use their IP that way, just kind of because like I get that they like have historically been toy manufacturers and card manufacturers. They do still produce Hanafuda cards and playing cards, but that's more of like a legacy thing for their own history. I think Nintendo's one to not really venture outside of their core competencies too much from a business perspective, and if they do, it would be I can't remember which studio it was, but the one that handled like 1-2 Switch and Labo.
EPD4? No?
If that is EPD4, I can't remember which specifically one it was, but I feel like they would be the ones to do it if they did. But I'm not bullish on them doing that themselves. However, what I would like for an original board game, it would I'll say Zelda. It would probably be a game where like you explore dungeons that are generated by like having different tiles that you lay out and maybe like cards that have different actions that are items you find or monsters or things like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, I can't think of too much more, but it would be exciting to see. I'm just not particularly bullish on it happening.
Not tangential. This is technically Pokemon Company, but not Nintendo. But bring back Pokemon Master Trainer. Bring back those board games. I want to have another board game where you're exploring a Pokemon region and catching Pokemon and doing like a whole journey. Those games, game design wise, they're a mess, but I have a lot of fondness for them. Let me get my little pucks. Let me put on those experience chips, and we're in for a good time.
Yeah, that sounds actually pretty good.
Yeah, if you haven't played or haven't heard of those board games, look up the ones they made them for Kanto and for Johto back in the day. Look them up. They're wild games, but I'm really fond of both of them.
All right, so that will do it for today's discussion. I'd like to thank my fellow discussion club members for their participation today, including those of you who sent us questions. If you're interested in continuing the discussion or sending us questions of your own, please be sure to find this podcast companion thread on Famiboards.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to review it or leave us some feedback. We're on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Or share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. It'll help the podcast grow. Thanks again, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.